Hello, I'm Martin Lewis from MoneySavingExpert.com. The Chancellor has just sat down after doing his autumn statement, so I want to give you a quick briefing of what it means in practice. My focus is always on the consumer finance elements. I'll leave the macroeconomics to other people. I'm going to be talking about the up-ratings, the change to the state pension, the change to universal credit, the change to minimum wage, the change to housing benefit. Well, I'll talk about the big one, the rabbit out of the hat, the cuts in national insurance for both employees and the self-employed. Then, he didn't say it in his speech, but we've just checked the documents afterwards and there are changes to the ISA system. And I also want to run through what he hasn't done. So let's start on those up ratings. The big one at the top, the state pension, the triple lock has been retained. And there was some discussion that they may try and jemmy the figures slightly by exactly what the rises in employment earnings are, whether they include bonus or not. That hasn't happened. So what it means is in April, the state pension will rise by 8.5%, the full triple lock promise, which means it will go to £221.20 a week, up from £203.85 a week. It is just over a £900 a year increase for those who get the full new state pension. Those on the old state pension system, those who hit state pension age before 2016, you'll get a similar percentage rise of 8.5%. And pension credit, which is the top up for those on really low incomes who don't get the full state pension, will also rise by the same amount. Do remember there are 1 million state pensioners in the UK on low incomes who are not getting the pension credit they're entitled to. If you don't know what that is, please do some reading on it and let's spread the word about that. Now we'll move on to benefits. Universal credit and other benefits, we're being told it's all benefits. I have not dotted the I's and crossed the T on that just yet, but I'm hoping that that is right, are going to rise by 6.7% from April. There was a bit of a sigh of relief in money saving towers when that was said, because there was discussion they were going to use the lower inflation figure, October's inflation, which would have been 4.5%, rather than the standard September figure. They haven't done that. Again, none of the jemmying, the tweaking, the manipulating that was discussed has happened, so benefits will go up by the full 6.7% again from April. And a very important part of that is housing allowance within universal credit is to be unfrozen. So it was frozen a couple of years ago. That means the amount that people get for rent has not been going up, while of course rental rates have gone up hugely in the UK. So this is important. From April, the housing allowance will be unfrozen. It's a bit complicated. Effectively, it's unfrozen to the 30th percentile in your area. What does that mean? It means it will give you enough money to pay for the 30% cheapest rate. So whatever is the 30%, if you have all the rents in your area, whatever's at the 30% bottom, you should be able to get enough money to pay for that one and no more. It was previously set at that, but as rents went up, they froze it, so it didn't go up. Hope that makes sense. What else? Well, we got confirmation, although this came out yesterday, so we all knew this one, that the minimum wage is to rise 9.8% next April to £11.44 a year. And it will apply to everyone aged over 21. It used to be everyone aged over 23. So that's good news. Worth noting, the minimum wage rise is bigger than the state pension rise and bigger than the rise in benefits. So there's a subtle statement there from the Chancellor of making work pay more than anything else. And we carry on with work, because what's interesting in this statement is what has been cut is not income tax that applies to everybody's income, whether it's earned or not, but national insurance, which is effectively a tax on earned income only. And that's been cut so that they're trying to give the incentive to those people who earn. The first one, the main one, is from the 6th of January. Normally this happened in April. He's bringing it forward. It's almost as if we've got an election next year, isn't it? Who would have thought that? On the 6th of January, Epiphany, I wonder if that's a subtle joke, we're going to see the employee rate of national insurance cut from 12% to 10%. National insurance, the way it works, it is a tax. So if you earn over £12,570 up to £50,270, you're currently giving 12% of that amount, of the difference between those two, wherever you're up to the tax office in the form of national insurance. You'll only be giving 10% away. So that is quite a substantial cut. It means people will take home more next year. It doesn't make up for the freezing of the income tax thresholds that we've had for the last couple of years, but it is still an attempt to be a bit more generous and get a bit more money in people's pockets. It's not the only change on national insurance. Those on Class 4 national insurance for the self-employed, that rate will be cut from 9% to 8%. And Class 2 national insurance, which is a national insurance, a flat rate of £3.45, paid by self-employed people who earn over £12,570, is being abolished. You'll no longer pay that flat £3.45, so what is that? £170 a year. And now, he did mention in there, but you'll still be able to make voluntary contributions and your entitlements won't change because, of course, national insurance gives you entitlements to certain benefits and gives you entitlements to your state pension once you hit retirement age. He said that won't change, but you can still make voluntary contributions. Was trying to work out, lots of things going on, this is very sudden, exactly what that means. What I think that means, again, I've not dotted the I's and crossed the T's, is if you currently don't earn enough to pay the national insurance contributions or to have a national insurance contribution made, you can make a voluntary contribution so that you keep getting your national insurance years towards your state pension. You will still be able to make a voluntary contribution if you're on an income below the threshold where you would have made national insurance contributions. Right, I think I've done all those. Have I got everything in so far? Yeah, I'm getting nods from the team sitting over there checking me. ISAs now. Wasn't in the speech itself, but there's quite a lot of tweaks being announced to the ISA regime. And ISA, of course, is a tax-free savings or investment allowance. So you won't pay tax on savings or investments you put inside an ISA wrapper. You're going to be allowed to have multiple subscriptions in a year. Oh, quick change. The national insurance contributions for the self-employed, they will change in April. It's the employee one that changes in January. Anyway, back to ISAs. You're going to be allowed to have multiple subscriptions. You're going to be allowed to do partial transfers of ISAs, so you don't have to move it all at once. There's going to be more fund variety allowed for ISAs. You're going to be allowed to put fractional shares in ISAs, which quite a lot of young people are quite interested in. What that means is, you know, the big American shares, your Apples and your Googles, they can be worth hundreds of pounds. Well, currently, you have to put single shares in. So if you wanted to invest £500 in, you couldn't if the share's 400 quid. You could buy one share at £400. You couldn't buy a fractional share. Fractional shares are going to be allowed within ISAs. We need to see the exact terms of that, but that is the change. Big one on ISAs, they're changing the age. Currently, adult ISAs, you can put money in from the age of 16. There's also the junior ISA, you can put money in until the age of 18. Well, they're aligning those two. So from next April, you will need to be aged 18 to put money into an ISA. So someone who's aged 16 to 18 and has got the money to use their allowances now, you want to get that done before next April. Note to the team, we'll need to do a guide on that when the time arrives, please. Also, all ISA allowances and junior ISA allowances have been frozen, so you can still put £20,000 a year in. There is a note about reforming the Help to Save system, which is for those people on low incomes, a brilliant way to save. I am slightly concerned about the phrasing of it when they say making it more efficient and administratively streamlining it for the taxpayer. I wonder if that means it will be less generous, but they haven't given any more details on that. I will be watching out for that in future. Right, they're the big changes. What didn't happen? Well, tax thresholds remain frozen. Fiscal drag it's called, not Jeremy Hunt in Rouge. That means if you're going to start paying tax at £12,570 and inflation and wage rises means more and more people are earning more, even though in practice it doesn't buy them anymore because of inflation, well, you're going to be paying more tax. And the same happens at the 40% level. More people are going into the 40% bracket because those thresholds have been frozen. And that is the big hit. That is what's raising the government more money at the moment in the middle of slightly dodgy economic times. No changes to inheritance tax, which had long been discussed. No changes to the NS&I, the Government-Backed Finance and Savings Institution targets. We had thought that was going to go up, which meant NS&I might do some really good rates coming in future. Well, it didn't happen. That target hasn't changed, so wouldn't expect any really superb rates coming from NS&I in future. Very annoying for me, because we've been campaigning on it. The lifetime ISA penalty has not been wiped. Currently, if you have a lifetime ISA, it gives you a 25% bonus when you buy a first-time property up to 450,000. But the 450,000 hasn't moved since 2017. So many people are now priced out, but they saved in a lifetime ISA to get their money out to buy the house they want above the threshold. they actually have to pay the state a penalty. Effectively, 6% of their money they lose and give it to the government. I've been campaigning that in those circumstances, you shouldn't lose that money. My campaign failed. And finally, one thing there was no mention of, that we are pretty certain is happening tomorrow, Thursday, we will hear the January energy price cap announced, and it is likely to mean energy prices up 5%. That's a prediction. I don't expect it to be far different. I'll be talking more about that tomorrow and probably do another video. I hope that helped. You can find far more details, and we'll be checking everything, dotting all those I's and crossing all the T's in the news section of moneysavingexpert.com.